I'm Alan Colmes. I want to welcome, happy to have him here, Stephen Snyder-Hill, U.S. Army Reserve Major. He's written a book called Soldier of Change, From the Closet to the Forefront of the Gay Rights Movement. Pretty much sums it up, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Are you an unwilling or maybe unexpected gay rights advocate? You didn't anticipate this would be the...
No, I had never, ever intended to be a spokesperson for a movement at all. That one night pretty much changed my life.
I want to play the tape from that night, but before I do, what led up to that moment at the 2012 presidential debate where your question went, with the help of Megyn Kelly, who's one of the moderators of the debate of Fox News, asking Rick Santorum about the issue of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. How did you get to that point?
You know, the funny thing is, I think when you read the book, it dispels a lot of the myths that people had. I had read online that I was not even a soldier, that I was a plant for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, right.
I've read all kinds of stuff, but basically...
Are you a Democrat or Republican?
You know, honestly, it's funny. I don't really ever answer that, but what I will say is that by nature, I'm very fiscally conservative.
Right.
So I agree with a lot of Republican ideals when it comes to fiscal conservatism. When it comes to
social issues, may be different.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people fall in that category. Don't really have a party they feel comfortable with.
Probably 98% of America, unfortunately. But
so anyway, leading up to that moment with Rick Santorum.
Yeah. So I joined the Army in 1988, and I have to say that coming to terms with myself was a long process, and I think that that's what this book will make people understand. When you're gay, it's just not easy to accept the fact that you're gay. People don't understand that. Right. But it took a long time for me to come to terms with myself, and it all happened during my military career, so it's all been in that whole process. But basically, that's what the book is a lot about. Is
you were in and out of the closet a couple of times, right?
Yeah, well, you know, I was in, and then it was Desert Storm when we were under artillery fire, and I thought I was going to die. I was like 18, 19 years old, and artillery was hitting on the left and right, and basically this artillery hit, and I looked, and I thought this is it. And I basically looked up in my tank, and there was a picture of my brother and his girlfriend. And so this picture, I look at it, and I hit bottom at that point, and I thought, I'm going to die today. And I've never lived one day of my life for myself or ever let myself love anybody. And that's when I actually came to terms with it.
You mentioned that in the book, that issue of seeing a picture of your brother and his girlfriend thinking, you know,
this is it.
I want to be able to love and be open about it.
Right.
But that wasn't a permanent coming out of the closet, was it?
No, that was when I first decided that I wasn't going to lie to myself anymore. And so then I spent the next probably, 10 years of my life really coming to terms with it, working through religious issues and trying to
Were you
accept
raised in a
myself.
religious background?
Yeah, I was brought up Catholic, and I was an altar boy, and I went through Catholicism. Then I kind of converted to Baptist, so I converted to a much stricter belief. And in Germany, I was definitely very, very religious, and I was very, in a lot of ways, I think that it was my ability to be able to cover who I was by, hiding it through religion. I haven't met the right person, and you know.
You talk in the book about, and I want to lead up to that moment I want to play for our audience, but you talk along the lines of what you're discussing here about self-loathing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people, you see those gays, they don't like each other, they don't even want to be gay. But that's not what self-loathing is about. Self-loathing because of societal pressure, right? That you can't be who you really are.
I think that what I hope from this book is that I hope people will be able to pick it up and understand the difference of just basically a different perspective, and understand that it's not so easy for gay people to come to terms with themselves, and that they actually have to go through all these stages of self-loathing and hate and be able to come to terms with themselves and be able to eventually accept and love themselves. It's not an easy process.
How did it get to the video, or you on video, being in that part of that debate?
So basically, there were a couple times that a mortar hit, and Josh and I were on Skype, and I had to
Josh is your partner?
Yeah.
Now your husband, right?
Wait, now my husband.
Right.
But we were on Skype, and I had to cut him off and say, that was a mortar, I have to go. And so he would sit there and think, what happens now? What if that was the last call I ever get? Will I even get a phone call? And so I came home, and the interesting thing is that I got deployed around December time, and they were starting to look at repealing it. I didn't know at the time. And so they were announcing that they might repeal it. So in May, I went home on my R&R and decided that after those mortar things that Josh and I decided we were going to get married. So we knew that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was being repealed, and we knew that they were not going to kick anybody out actively. So we got married at the grave of Leonard Matlovich. So we basically married at the grave of a tech sergeant who fought the Air Force when he was gay. And when he died, you could not be gay and be in the military.
Is this someone you knew?
No, we didn't know him. He's just a hero. He's just somebody that we looked up to. And so that's where we decided that we would honor him just with our private ceremony with the two of us. So we got married, and then we went back to Iraq. I had my ring on. That's where it got really rough because people started asking me, are you going to go get benefits? Who is it? What happened? And
God forbid you should get benefits like other married people.
Right. So then I think that I saw Michelle Bachmann come on Fox because AFN kind of shows all the news. And so we see a lot of Fox, a lot of MSNBC. And I saw that she was starting to run kind of her platform on, I'm going to reinstate this repeal that wasn't even effective yet. It hadn't even taken into effect at that time. So I started asking Josh, what happens to us? We just got married. I can't take that back. So it's not like I'll ever be able to reverse that I'm gay, and they know that now. And so that's when we decided to anonymously send the question in, hiding my face. And then we got an email back from Google, whoever gets an email from Google. That was really weird. And it said, this is going to air on the 22nd, and the debate, it'll air after the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal, so we'd like you to show your face. And I can't tell you how much, even today, it makes me sick to my stomach to think somebody asked me to do that, because I wasn't out to anybody. I mean, anybody in the military.
What do you mean? So you recorded something where your face was not seen?
Yes.
And what was that supposed to be used for?
It was the same thing. It was basically, I said that I'm a gay soldier. The reason I'm not showing my face is because that I could get kicked out right now, and I'd like to know what your opinion
is. And that was to be used in the presidential debate.
Correct. Okay. And then they called me back and said, you know what, this is going to be after
who's
the repeal.
Who's the they? Who's the
Google.
So Google, who co-sponsored the debate.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
Right.
And so they asked me to show my face, and then I had to. I really struggled with that because that was putting everything on the line and my retirement and everything else. And eventually we thought somebody has to stand up and ask these people that could potentially be the president of the United States what their intentions were.
And you didn't know the question would go to Rick Santorum.
No, I didn't.
The biggest anti-gay candidate out there.
That was an interesting choice, I'll say that.
We're going to come right back. We'll play you the tape. We'll talk more to Stephen Snyder-Hill. By the way, your name was what? Stephen Hill.
It was Stephen Hill.
And now you've taken on the name of your partner as well.
And that was a challenge. We had to fight that in Ohio because they didn't want to let us have the same last name because we put that we got married. That's what we put as our reasoning. And in Ohio, you can actually say my name's stupid, and that's my reason because I had a person that I knew that did that, and they accept that. But because we put we were married, they didn't want to let us do it, and we fought and won.
As Stephen Snyder-Hill, our guest, Soldier of Change, the book, and we will come right back and we'll play that piece from which has made him internationally famous. And if you like, your calls at 877-367-2526. I'm Alan Colmes talking with Stephen Snyder-Hill. By the way, George Takei did the forward to his book, Soldier of Change. So here's the moment in 2012 at a presidential debate. Megyn Kelly is the moderator. This is the moment where Stephen Hill, U.S. Army major, has the opportunity. This was, you were not doing this live, right? This was your part was pre-recorded.
Correct. I recorded it before and sent it in.
And here's what happens. The question, it turns out, goes to Rick Santorum.
What would you do with soldiers like Stephen Hill? I mean, he's out. You saw his face on camera. When he first submitted this video to us, it was without his face on camera. Now he's out. So what would you do as president?
I think look, what we're doing is playing social experimentation with our military right now, and that's tragic. I would just say that going forward, we would reinstitute that policy if Rick Santorum was president. Period. That policy would be reinstituted, and as far as people who are in it, I would not throw them out because that would be unfair to them because of the policy of this administration.
That's nice of him not to throw you out.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
What was that? Well, actually, here's the question, by the way.
In 2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
Yeah, I would say any type of sexual activity has absolutely no place in the military, and the fact that they're making a point to include it as a provision within the military that we are going to recognize a group of people and give them a special privilege and removing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, I think tries to inject social policy.
What was your reaction when you heard the crowd booing?
Probably the reaction on your face as you were listening.
You saw what I was.
Yeah, if your listeners could only see that.
Well, some of them can because we're video streaming. But okay,
there you go. So, the booing actually really, honestly, you don't know how you feel exposing yourself like that to 6 billion people on the earth at one time. But then when you get booed, it definitely makes you think, what did I do wrong? I probably did something wrong here. But worse than that is that the answer that Rick had given that received a standing ovation and everybody was clapping was that he said that I was asking for a special privilege to serve my country. And he was also basically reducing my 26 honorable year career, highly decorated career, to sex. And then those people stood up and cheered. That's the one thing that I think people don't get when they try to forensically, analyze the whole thing and say it was only 3 people that booed, and they booed his question, they didn't boo him. I could go on and on about what they said about the booing, but nobody can answer the other part.
But what you felt inside must have. Was your career flashing before your eyes? Oh my God, it's over now. I'm out.
No, my life was flashing before my eyes at that point because I didn't know how anybody would react. Nobody knew that I was gay. A lot of people back home. I wasn't out to people at work. I mean, there was a lot.
So what was the reaction first at work? What happened when you went to work?
So right after the debate, it was very awkward because people were running around with laptops in Iraq showing the YouTube clip to people.
You're in Iraq at the time, right?
Yeah, I was, and nobody knew. One of my first reactions, and this was an interesting one, is that somebody that I didn't even particularly get along with a lot, is that another soldier came up to me and he said, "So are you signing a lot of autographs?" And I said, this is very awkward. He looks at me and he goes, "Why is it awkward?" And he grabs my hand and he rubs it. And he said, "Your gay isn't going to rub off on me." And he said, "My brother and his partner got married last year."
Wow.
And it's somebody that I would never think in a billion years that I would ever have support from.
Wow.
Here he's like, we had a commonality.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing.
So it didn't end your military career, obviously.
No, actually, the Army, I have to say that the U.S. Army just leads the way when it comes to just enforcing rules and policy. And I think that when the policy was there, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was a law. So the military enforced it just the way that they always do. When it was repealed, they gave us training and they repealed it. And even now in Ohio, the military recognizes Josh and I's marriage. We have more protection on a military base in Ohio than we do the minute we step off that base.
Did some of the people you served with at the time know about your relationship with Josh?
Nobody knew. Not one person. It was a couple days before the debate, I confided with 2 people that were really close friends. And the only reason I did, this is the one thing that I try to address in my book, is that when you go through these self-loathing things, you always think of everybody except yourself. You're always worried about what everybody else has to think. So I went to these 2 people. One of them was a really good friend that I worked out with a lot there. I thought, this guy deserves to know, because people are going to think he's been hanging out with me this whole time, so he had to have known. And so you almost feel like you have an obligation to warn him, this is going to happen. So.
What was the reaction back in Ohio from your family or friends who didn't know that you were gay?
I think that people have been very surprised. A lot of people really didn't make the connection even after they saw the video. One person in Ohio said to Josh, he said, "So what did Steve think about that soldier that asked that question?" And Josh laughed.
Not knowing it was you?
Yeah, he said he took it personally, and he didn't even tell him, but he said, "How funny will it be later when he finds out?" But I would say it's overwhelmingly, everybody has been extremely supportive.
Did you lose any friends?
No, you know what? I think that there were, I call them kind of cockroaches. Like when we flew over to Iraq, we're on a plane and a guy got up and made a joke, and he basically said, "Tonight's in-flight movie is going to be Brokeback Mountain." And everybody in the audience or in the plane just laughed. And I remember feeling so empty, thinking all these people are my brothers and sisters, and they're the ones that protect me in war, and they're sitting here mocking me. And then the other funny thought that went through my head was that most of them, the age that they were, is the difference in the 2 wars that I had served in. That I'd been here 20 years ago, and these guys were 20 years old. But on the plane ride home, I slept in peace, because nobody would have done that. They laugh out of being uncomfortable, but I think that once somebody stands up for themselves, absolutely.
Stephen Snyder-Hill's our guest. His book is called Soldier of Change. How are things different now than they were when you were serving full-time? You're in the reserves now, right?
I'm still in the reserves. Yeah, correct. I honestly, I think that just by telling your story, I think people can understand better, and the bias is not there. I have no negative reaction at all with the soldiers I serve with. As a matter of fact, part of the argument against Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed was unit camaraderie and the cohesion. I must have heard that word so many times that it became a four-letter word to me. But I could tell you right now, I have more unit cohesion because now I don't have to try to dodge people's Facebook requests and try to give them fake reasons why I don't want to be friends with them and try to act real weird if they ask me, what did you do? Yeah, and people could detect that. They could tell that there was something wrong, and it always kept you from being close to people.
It's interesting that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was instituted by Bill Clinton, the so-called liberal president, not even that liberal president. But before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, what was the policy then?
It was that they would ask you one time, and I was asked in a very derogatory way.
And you had to lie?
In 1988, and you just lie once. Well, but, I don't even consider myself lying because coming to terms with yourself as a gay person, you don't come out of the womb and say, I'm gay. It took me until I was 22 to really come to terms with it.
You say that you're asked in a derogatory manner. How were you
I was asked if I take it up there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna.
That's the way you were asked.
That was the way I was asked by about a 92-year-old doctor.
What if you said, "Well, no, I prefer just oral"? What if you said that?
He probably wouldn't even understood that. I don't know.
All right.
But yeah. So it wasn't even at the time. I didn't consider myself gay at the time because I knew something was different. It was this darkness that I call it that I was trying to suppress.
So were you trying to be straight because you felt that was what was expected of you? You didn't think of yourself as a gay person?
Well, to think of yourself as a gay person is really a hard thing to say because you just think of yourself as a person. You know that you're not.
But you were not attracted to women.
You know that you're not attracted to women, and you just think, well, maybe I haven't met the right one. All these societal things that you're programmed to believing. You're thinking, well, I know that I'm not. I like AC/DC. I don't like Flowers. I don't like Cher. Sorry, Cher. But I'm just not like stereotypical, but I just couldn't relate to anything that other people that I thought I was supposed to relate to until I found out it's okay. You don't have to like anything. You don't have to be a certain way. You can just be yourself.
Are people entering the military now, the new recruits, okay about, if they're gay, it's fine. They don't have any problems now, or are there still hurdles to overcome?
How about this? This is the coolest thing. Somebody read my book, and he posted a picture of him reading the book, and he wrote a review on Amazon. If you get on Amazon now, you can read this review from this guy, and he said that he's a soldier. He said he never went under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He waited until it was repealed, and he said the reason I joined is because people like you made it able for me to be in the military and be honest. So yeah, now it's a very different culture. The military is very respectful and people treat you decent. You're always going to have, no matter how much you have a good culture, you're always going to have some people that are idiots, or you always have people that are small-minded and bigoted. And
that's
I'm sure you've probably run into a couple yourself.
Not me, not in my business. Yeah. Never happens.
Yeah, seriously.
The book is called Soldier of Change: From the Closet to the Forefront of the Gay Rights Movement. Do you want to keep being a spokesperson for the movement, or is this a passing moment in your life where you just want to go on and not make this what your life is about?
That's a funny question because Josh and I kind of quabble with that a little bit.
I've got about 20 seconds here.
Yeah. No, I'm going to keep going because I think that other people, disenfranchised people, need to have rights, and I'm going to keep pushing for that.
Well, you're very courageous for what you've done and the fact you want to keep doing it. Once again, Soldier of Change, Stephen Snyder-Hill, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll come right back at 877-367-2526.